bigcal and welcome to my world. Today we are wrapping up Dragon Questober 2021 and hopefully we're going out with a bang as I'm taking a look at the newest game in the Dragon Quest series at the time of this video, Dragon Quest XI Echoes of an Elusive Age. So this was first released in the West exclusively for PS4 in 2018 and it was the first Dragon Quest game that I got to play brand new as it came out. Now I'd only been a Dragon Quest fan for about 3 years at this point and I'd played Dragon Quest IX, which was technically the newest game in the West as we never got 10, but it was already like a 5-year-old game by the time that I got to it. So this one was the first one that I played as it actually came out. While I wasn't big into pre-ordering games at the time, I made sure to make an exception for this. And I even got it 3 days early, so yay me! As soon as I put the disc into my console, loaded it up, I just knew I was playing something special. Turns out, I was right. That iconic theme instantly transported me back into the world of Dragon Quest, only this time the world has never looked so beautiful. Dragon Quest VIII was the last mainline series game on a console, so here we are a whole 2 generations later for Dragon Quest XI and the difference is astounding. The opening cutscene looks incredible and the actual game is just as amazing. Vibrant colours, the distinctive designs of Akira Toriyama, and beautiful scenery all ready to be explored. While it isn't a full open world game in the same vein as say Zelda Breath of the Wild, each segment, shall we say, is usually large enough to have places for you to explore and do your own thing without getting lost or feeling too overwhelmed. It hits the right balance of freedom and linear gameplay for me. If things get a little too rough for you though, there are safe zones in the form of campsites, which allow you to save, talk to your party members, heal up and a few other things that unlock as you progress through the game. The story, one of the most important things in a JRPG, can be summed up fairly easily for Dragon Quest XI. You play as the Luminary, a descendant of a legendary hero, sound familiar? Dragon Quest? Yeah, who must stop darkness and evil from taking over the world. Simple, right? There are a few twists and turns here and there that take it from a very simple story into something a little more complex. Okay, it's not the Legend of Heroes Trails type of complex when it comes to story and world building, but it's certainly a little more than your average Dragon Quest game. Certainly Dragon Quest I, which was the last game that I reviewed earlier this month for Dragon Questober. Check that out if you haven't already. Another thing that really sets it apart from a very generic basic story is the characters. On the surface they do seem rather generic, but again, there are more complexities to them that you don't really get until you dive deeper into the game. Without going into too much spoiler territory, I want to go over some of the characters in the game that you'll be playing as. Now, again, on the surface they are very generic, very stereotypical JRPG characters. The silent protagonist, the strong, skilled, youthful fighter with a mysterious background, strong fighter girl, pure innocent girl, pervy old man. It's the norm. I mean, Dragon Quest basically helped create a lot of these, so what do you expect? But, like the story, a number of things happen as you play through the game, and what seems very generic on the surface gets a little more complex. So let's dive into each of the main party members. First up is you, the player. You are the silent protagonist, the reincarnation of the legendary Luminary with the sole purpose of stopping evil from taking over the land. While there is no memory loss story here, you do have a lack of information about your past and what the Luminary actually is. A large part of the game is about you discovering what your destiny actually entails, and if you are indeed the hero. The twists and turns taken in the story might not be the most shocking, but it's well told, and I was engaged the entire time. Next is Eric, who you meet in unusual circumstances, shall we say? A skilled sword fighter and very resourceful, he's definitely a useful companion on your journey, and for whatever reason he seems intent on helping you no matter what. He was told of your meeting by a mysterious figure, whom we don't learn about until much later in the game, but what is equally as mysterious is why exactly Eric is so eager to help you. Prior to meeting you, he seemed to be nothing more than a petty thief. What could have changed him? Then we have the twins Veronica and Serena, both powerful in the art of magic. Veronica has powerful magic attacks to deal lots of damage, while Serena is a healer and defender with hers. Together they have been tasked with aiding the Luminary since birth, and now they find you, they will stop at nothing to see your destiny fulfilled. Veronica is loud and outspoken, while Serena is quiet and has an innocence about her. They might be twins, but are completely different people. On the surface, their story doesn't seem to be particularly deep, and further into the game you'll find out that such a thing just isn't true. Jade is a strong warrior who can keep up with just about anyone in hand-to-hand combat or with her staff. She'll hit hard and take a lot of damage too. Her personality lies somewhere between Veronica and Serena, as she can be very quiet at times, but won't hesitate to speak up or use her fists when necessary. Her backstory is actually very complex, and may even have a connection to the Luminary. Rab is short, squat, and has a Scottish accent. If this were World of Warcraft, he'd be a dwarf. Instead, he's more like Master Roshi from the Dragon Ball series, a supremely skilled martial artist who also enjoys the company of women. Any women, real or magazine form. While he can provide you with the pervy Japanese humour from time to time, without going into the weird gropey territory that some games do, thankfully, he's a very complex character with a big history that can be, frankly, heartbreaking at times. He uses both magic and hand-to-hand combat in a very Dragon Ball way, including an attack that looks eerily similar to a certain wave. Lastly, we have Sylvando, probably the absolute highlight of the entire game for me. Everyone else in your party has some kind of stake in helping you, the Luminary, out, be it destiny of their own or something in their past urging them on. Sylvando, though, seems to just be here for the ride and nothing more. He just wants to have fun and believes the epic adventure that you're on will provide him with that fun. Of course, we do eventually learn that there is more to his character than that, but even then, the reasons for him sticking with you are far more personal just to him than most everybody else. So we have our story and our characters, let's get into some gameplay. And like every other mainline Dragon Quest game in the franchise, it is a turn-based JRPG at its core. Each battle against the enemy sees you and your party, a max of 4, facing off in a small area of whichever location you happen to be in. You can move around a little here, but it serves no real purpose except for escaping a battle by running outside of the area. You select which attack you want to perform, then watch it play out on screen. However, rather than choosing everyone's attack at once, you do it one at a time, with the character speed determining when they get their turn. This allows you to be far more strategic, as you might have a character or two take their turn after the enemy, meaning you won't have to potentially waste an attack when you could be healing another character, or wasting a whole bunch of MP on the strongest spell you have, rather than just using a simple attack to finish off the enemy. Everyone has a basic attack using the weapon they are holding, but the real meat of the battle system comes in the form of spells and abilities. As you level up, you gain skill points to spend on various attacks, sometimes depending on which weapon you have equipped, or simply where you are in the story. These can range from stronger weapon attacks, multiple attacks, basic fire, ice, electric and wind spells, to massive healing damage moves that can hit everything on screen. Healing and buffs are here as well, allowing you to heal party members, increase their offense and defense, and even increase their magic attacks. While many previous games have your character unlocking attacks as you level up, then being able to gain new ones with jobs, Dragon Quest XI instead keeps the majority of these locked behind the skill tree, giving you, the player, the freedom to choose to build your party the way you want to. New to the game is the pep system, where, every so often in battle, a character will power up, similar to something right out of Dragon Ball Z, and they will gain a slight increase in abilities. However, pep is most useful for the new attacks it brings. A single character, when pepped up, has access to a number of powerful attacks, gained throughout the game, but it's when multiple characters are pepped up at once that things really heat up. Depending on the formation of your party and which characters are in pep mode, you now have access to devastating super attacks that will drain the pep from everyone involved. But the reward is usually almost always worth it. Knowing when to keep pep active for those stat increases and when to use it for a one-off stronger attack adds an extra layer of strategy to the battle system, and I love it. And if all of that isn't enough, the weapons you equip and the armour and accessories you wear can also impact on battle, not just from increasing particular stats. Some of them have unique abilities, such as restoring some health or mana before each turn, or even being selected in battle as an item to perform a new attack, or in some cases, even bringing dead party members back to life. Again, this adds another layer of strategy to battle, as some enemies might require you to switch up your gear before fighting them. Speaking of switching up, I didn't realise until very, very far into the game, I'm talking maybe 60 hours into a nearly 90-hour playthrough, that you could switch party members out during battle. At maximum you will have 8 party members, but only 4 of them can be in a party formation during a battle. Now, if one of them happens to die, they will lose experience when the battle ends unless you revive them. However, switching out means that once they get low on health, swap them out for someone in the reserve party. That way they stay alive, they get experience at the end of the battle, and so does the new person that you brought in. It's also very helpful for trying to do particular pep attacks, if the one you want to do happens to require someone not in your party at the time. Swap them out, bring them into the party, and boom, sorted. Very handy, don't be like me, learn to do this from the get-go. I don't think the game actually tells you about it, so I'm telling you about it now. Swap party members. A variation of the alchemy pot from previous games makes a return as the Forge, which allows you to create new weapons, armour and accessories. Once you have a recipe and the required materials, you can use the Forge at campsites and must participate in a sort of forging minigame. Each item you try to forge has a number of different sections and you have to hit them a number of times. The difficulty comes in how hard you need to hit them, what the temperature of the forge is, and if you have enough focus points to use different types of hits. The goal is to get each segment into the green area, and the better you do, the more chance your newly forged item will get additional stat boosts. In most games I find crafting weapons and armour to be mostly useless, as you always seem to be able to buy much better equipment at the same time. Here though, the ability to increase the stats makes the Forge a much more useful addition to the game. And hey, even if you screw up, if you have enough Perfectionist Pearls, you can rework the equipment to try and make it better. As you get much further into the game, some of the best weapons and armour can only be obtained through the Forge, so it's a good idea to use it often and become an expert at it in order to craft yourself the best stuff when the time comes. As you journey to save the world, you'll spend half of your time on the world map and half in towns and cities. The world map's main focus, as with every other Dragon Quest game, is to get you into battles. Keeping in line with the last couple of Dragon Quest games, enemies are wandering around the world map, giving you the opportunity to avoid battles if you wish, or better help you fight particular monsters. You can also hit them right before battle to gain a little advantage, or if you're strong enough to, outright kill them. But battling isn't the only thing to do. as the large open areas will have items scattered around, indicated by a flashing effect on screen, chests to be found, midi medals, of course, and even an archery side quest where each of the game's 7 main regions have 5 targets for you to destroy in order to gain rewards. Personally, I wasn't a fan of this as I could never find the bloody targets. Walking or even using the speed boost as you run can still get you around a little slow at times. Luckily you have various mounts. The horse is the first and main one that you will use and have access to all throughout the game, and he goes very fast. But certain monsters, which usually have a sort of glitter effect before you go into battle, can also be used as mounts once you defeat them. These have special abilities, be it climbing walls or jumping very high, smashing rocks and walking over lava, etc. These are mostly used for sort of platforming skills, as some areas will require you to do a bit of platforming to access the new areas, or simply to find some hidden secrets. And not only will you travel on land, but as with most JRPGs, you will eventually gain access to a ship, a method of flying, and perhaps something else that I won't spoil, opening up even more of the world. This is often used to access new areas for the story, but other times it will simply give you smaller areas to explore and find items and rare monster types to battle. Towns and cities, on the other hand, offer no combat. Instead, the bulk of the game's story will develop here. Each location has its own distinct look and feel, with all the locals having very specific accents or unique ways of talking, which really makes out the world feel like the actual world. These towns and cities also have something going on within them for you to work your way through in order to gain access to new information or a key item to help with the main story. This is always fun, especially later on in the game when things change. More on that soon. Of course, towns and cities also mean houses and other buildings to look around, and more importantly, steal items from! It just wouldn't be an RPG game if you couldn't walk into a stranger's house, rummage through their drawers for a skill seed or a pair of stockings. Bookshelves are also a great thing to keep an eye out for. You'll notice that there is sometimes a large red book that stands out compared to the rest, and these books can contain backstory for particular characters, lore of the world, or even a recipe for the forge. Always worth reading any book you come across. Talking to NPCs will give you more information on the world as well, but some of them will help kickstart a side quest. Dragon Quest as a series isn't really known for side quests, something that goes back to the very first game. Dragon Quest XI looks to change that, not only giving you plenty of optional things to do, but has an actual, genuine quest log for the first time in the franchise's history. While the main purpose of completing side quests is, of course, to get rewards, Dragon Quest XI does a brilliant job of having a number of them act as almost a tutorial. In the early parts of the game, side quests will teach you things like platforming, something that JRPGs don't always usually have, so you can access rooftops and other locations to find hidden chests and other items. Or you'll be asked to perform a double pep attack on a monster in order to help teach you the uses of the new pep system. Right, at this point of the video, I'm going to have to ask anyone who hasn't played Dragon Quest XI but wants to turn off the video. I know, weird, right? YouTuber asking you to stop watching his video. But if everything I've said so far has made you interested in playing the game, or if you were already interested, now you're more interested in playing the game, go and play it. It's fantastic. It really is an amazing game. So go play it. If you have already finished the game, or for some very weird reason you're not interested in it at all, or you just don't care, keep watching because I'm now going to go into major spoiler territory. Going to be talking about a lot of the characters, the stories, the twists and turns. Yeah, everything I'm going to be talking about from now on is a spoiler. So you have been warned. Spoiler! As I stated earlier in this video, the Dragon Quest story, on its surface, very generic. But those twists and turns turn it from very generic into something a little more complex, but more interesting and fun. And in order to talk about why I find it interesting and fun, I'm going to have to talk about those twists and those turns and what it does to the game, hence the whole spoiler warning. To make things easier, I'm splitting the game up into 3 different sections, which the game probably does itself as well, but I'm simply calling it Part 1, Part 2, and then Part 3. So, let's get started. Part 1 is where the game seems like your generic JRPG, and honestly it's what the Dragon Quest series created and continued to build upon all these years, rarely venturing away from it. You, the Luminary, joins forces with the various party members I've discussed already in order to defeat the evil Mordegon. To do this, you travel the world to collect 6 coloured orbs that can create a rainbow bridge to Yggdrasil, the World Tree. There you can find the Sword of Light. I got to this game about the 30-hour mark, which should have given me an indication that it probably wasn't the end just yet. And of course, it wasn't. Mordegon appears, steals the Sword of Light and infuses it with darkness, and then destroys the World Tree. This all sets up Part 2 of the game, as you wake up in a world overrun by evil. Mordegon won and darkness rules. Now you must journey back to previous locations to locate your friends, and all of the locations have changed in some way due to Mordegon ruling over everything. New bosses to fight and some old ones with a twist, each of them using the power of a coloured orb that you must reclaim. While Part 3 has some interesting changes too, I think Part 2 of the game is what I enjoy the most. The old locations with a twist, and even some new locations thrown in there, and a ton of new backstory revelations for party members. The story of Eric and his sister is one of the standouts for me, since Eric is one of the more mysterious members of your party up to this point. We knew basically nothing about him, until you finally reunite with him and he has amnesia. In order to help him get his memory back, you end up having to prevent an outbreak of gold fever, where people and objects are turning into gold. Eventually it's discovered that Eric's sister was turned into gold with no way of bringing her back, and Eric was told he must aid the Luminary in order to restore her. Lots more to go through there, but I won't spoil too much of everything. Sylvando's background is revealed as well, and again another standout for me. We learn that his father is Don Rodrigo, a legendary knight. Syl had been expected to follow in his father's footsteps, but after seeing the circus one day, he found his real purpose in life. His father was not well pleased, and so Sylvando ran away from home to join the circus. We are under the impression that Don Rodrigo hates his son, but once they reunite, we learn that Don Rodrigo was only upset that Sylvando had not yet lived up to his promise of putting smiles on everyone's face. Once everyone is back on the team, minus the death of a certain character and the addition of another, you gain access to Cetacea, a flying beast to travel the skies with. First order of business is with the Watchers, or rather, Watcher, as only one survived. This Majin Buu looking character tells you to forge a new Sword of Light, and thanks to some handy visions, you know where to go and what to do. Along the way, trouble is brewing in Gallopolis, where Erdwin's lantern, a star named after the luminary of old, is plummeting to the ground. Before you can do anything about it though, Mordegon of all people swoops in and saves the day. Not all is as it seems, but we'll save that for later. Once you've forged a new Sword of Light, it's off to beat Mordegon once and for all. Battle through his evil floating fortress and defeat him, bring back Yggdrasil, and send back the darkness. Roll credits, and it's over. But wait! Just like an MCU film, there is some post-credit scenes here, and they seem to be hinting at a new location that maybe you should go and explore. And finally we have part 3. The world has been saved, but so much death and destruction was caused as a result of Mordegon winning the initial battle. However, you learn of the Timekeeper, a mysterious being capable of sending you back in time to right before the first encounter with Mordegon. Yes, Dragon Quest XI has time travel. So you travel back in time and you're able to prevent the Sword of Light from becoming the Sword of Shadows. You also prevent Mordegon from actually revealing himself. Instead, he continues to hide within the body of King Carnelian, waiting for the perfect moment to steal your sword for himself. What this means is that the World Tree is never destroyed, darkness never takes over, and nobody dies. It isn't long before you do battle with Mordegon again, and you soundly defeat him for the second time. All is right with the world. Except, remember Erdwin's lantern? Without Mordegon to destroy it, a new, bigger evil rises out of it. Kalasmos. You might think that all you have to do now is beat another big bad boss, but not quite yet. Remember, you travelled back in time to prevent certain things from happening. For starters, the Watchers are all still alive. They have new side quests for you and more lore to fill you in on, and of course can even help guide you on your journey to defeating Kalasmos. Also, remember how you saved Eric's sister? Well, that never happened either now, and since she never turned evil, she's simply still a golden statue awaiting rescue. All of these things give you yet another reason to check out every previous location in the game, as once again something has changed based on the circumstances. Since the battle against Kalasmos will be a tough one, the game introduces a number of trials you can undertake. The Watchers have some of their own, pitting you against uber powerful versions of previous bosses, and at the end you gain a wish for something like a new weapon or to marry Gemma, your childhood best friend / sweetheart. The High Llama, yes I know, has his own trials, where you split your party into different teams and try to defeat multiple monsters in a certain number of moves, gaining items, weapons and armour as rewards for completing them. All worth doing in order to be fully prepared for the final battle. In fact, I believe you need to wish for the strong sword in one of the trials in order to actually beat Kalasmos, though I don't think the game ever outright tells you this, which is definitely an oversight. When you are as prepared as you wish to be, in my case I levelled up to the maximum level of 99, which made things far too easy, you take on Kalasmos, defeat him, and you finally finish the game. Things wrap up nicely at the end with a couple of little surprises, and I really love the end credits with how they show off footage from all the previous games. And then, right at the very end, we get the opening to Dragon Quest III. Yes, Dragon Quest XI is revealed to be a prequel to even that game, making it the earliest game linking to the original trilogy. What's even more interesting now is that they announced a remake of Dragon Quest III earlier this year. I wonder if it was done intentionally as a very early tease to that, or not, but either way, it's a cool moment. And that is why I wanted to give a massive spoiler warning, because I spoiled a great deal of the story, some character revelations and locations. However, I still missed out a ton of things that I could have gone over if I wanted. But I don't want to spoil everything still, because even if you're one of those people who haven't played the game but have continued watching the video, you might still eventually get around to playing the game, and if you do, I didn't want to ruin everything for you. Trust me, you really do want to play this game. It is amazing. I love it so much. Yeah, so going over it all really did help me sort of get across some of the things that I love about the game. The different changes to the world in each of the 3 parts of the game. You have the original one that is your very basic generic story, and for a Dragon Quest series would have been perfectly fine, to be honest, because that's what a lot of us kind of expect Dragon Quest to be. Very basic and generic. It's the comfort food of video gaming. You pick up a Dragon Quest game, you basically know what you're going to get, and there is a lot of comfort in that. So yeah, but the parts 2 and 3 where you keep bait and switching you with the endings and things start changing based on what happens is just a really cool addition to the game. You essentially get 3 different worlds in one. You get the original one, you get the one covered in darkness where everything's changed and evil roams the world, and then you get the third one where it's still the first part, but everything you did in the second part has been undone and you have to redo it, but without the evil, darkness thing that has taken over the world. It's a very interesting take and I loved it. Now, to tie this back into my Dragon Quest 1 review, since this is all part of Dragon Questober and I want to link it all together, I kind of want to compare the two games, and I know that's kind of crazy. The original game back in 1986 and this latest game released in 2018. There are going to be differences. So what I'm going to do instead is, when I did that Dragon Quest 1 video, which if you haven't seen it, go watch it, link below in the description and whatnot. What I did is, I compared 4 different versions of the game. The original on NES, and then the remake for the Super Famicom, the Game Boy, and the Switch. And when I did that, I had a list of issues that Dragon Quest, the original version, did unfortunately have. And then I pointed out how they've been improved in future games. So I want to kind of do that, but for the first Dragon Quest, and then Dragon Quest 11. So let's just get started, shall we? The original Dragon Quest game was notoriously bad for grinding, with tons of random encounters and barely any experience and gold per battle. Yes, this was vastly improved in subsequent ports, but how have things developed over the series right up to Dragon Quest XI? Well, it is considerably better. So much so. No longer do we have random encounters at all, instead enemies will be wandering around the world map as I've mentioned before. So you walk up to them and enter a battle at your leisure. Some monsters will chase you, though 9 times out of 10 you can manage to outrun them. And if you happen to be at a much higher level than they are, they will actually run away from you. This feature was first introduced in Dragon Quest VIII and I'm glad it stuck around. As far as gaining experience goes, honestly Dragon Quest XI might be the easiest Dragon Quest game to level up in. Experience is thrown at you so much, and the encounter rate for metal slime seems much higher than any previous game. Getting to maximum level was almost a breeze for me once I discovered the best location to find metal king slimes. Gold? Honestly, I don't recall being desperate for it at any time in the game. Want that shiny new armour? That damage busting weapon? Well, odds are you can get it as and when you please. The Forge can help with that too, as if you do need some gold, you can forge something and sell it on. This was a big issue for the original Dragon Quest game, and remained basically the same for all of the ports, with only the Game Boy version having a quick save ability and the Nintendo Switch having access to sleep mode, which was a console feature and nothing to do with the actual game. As the series has progressed, saving has infinitely improved, but it's still not exactly perfect. Saving no longer requires you to visit a king at the beginning of the game. Instead, you talk to a priest at a church. Churches are scattered throughout the game in each town and city, etc., so you are rarely too far away from a save point. If that wasn't enough, campsites on the world map allow you to save as well. There is still no way to save anywhere you please, such as right before a boss fight, but that really is a minor issue, and I'm perfectly happy with how saving is these days. This might be the biggest change of them all. Dragon Quest I only allowed you to carry 10 different items, with only a couple of those being able to stack up to a total of 6. Other versions allowed you to add gold and items to a banking system, which did help out a lot. These days though, each character has their own item slots, and you can carry a lot of items, and then on top of that you have a bag that you can carry, well, just about everything you'd want. I'm honestly not entirely sure if it can get full, and I played the game for almost 90 hours and did almost everything there was to do, so if I didn't fill it, then that should tell you everything. Items held by party members can be accessed in battles, including weapons which can sometimes be used as an item, while items in the bag can only be accessed outside of battles. As for items themselves, oh boy, there are a lot. A lot. Like a ton. Multiple weapon types, from swords to boomerangs and even whips, and each type has so many individual weapons with different stats and abilities, some of which can be improved when made on the forge. Same goes for armour and accessories, and plenty of them can even change the appearance of your party members, which will be seen in cutscenes too. So if fan service is your thing, then you can have the ladies in your party wearing a bunny outfit if you wish. For regular items, yeah, loads of those too. Various healing items and MP restoratives, rare items that will give you pep instantly, very useful for certain side quests, skill seeds that will give you more skill points, and the usual seeds for strength, MP, etc. The majority of items though will be materials used for the forge, so you'll end up with plenty of those. All this basically means is that there is a ton of customization in Dragon Quest XI for your party and gameplay styles, and that is always a good thing. Yeah, not really much to say here. The menu options issues from the first Dragon Quest game were all about having to open up a menu to select things like door, stairs and talk, which have long since been removed from the series. Yay! Well, that was hopefully a fun little comparison between the original Dragon Quest game and the improvements made now throughout the series right up to Dragon Quest XI. If only there was some other version though of Dragon Quest XI that I could compare to the original. If only. Yep, no other version to compare. Yep, there was only the one version. That was it. Dragon Quest XI S. Yep, they released a special Switch edition of the game that was originally exclusive just to the Nintendo Switch, which is kind of what everyone thought the S stood for at the time. But it has since been ported onto the PlayStation 4 as well, PC, and for the first time in the Dragon Quest series history, a Microsoft console. So everybody gets to play it now. But just what are the differences and potential additions to the S version, aka the definitive edition? Graphics. Yeah, the Switch isn't powerful, blah blah blah. Visually, the game does take a small hit on the Switch, and the ports of this version to other consoles and PC are the same. How much does this matter? 0. Literally 0. But that isn't the only graphical change, as the exclusive Japanese 3DS version of the game had a rather unique gimmick to it. The top screen was full 3D, while the bottom screen was 2D in the style of 16-bit games. Since there is only one screen on all of these new systems, the S version of the game lets you switch between the two, allowing you to play in regular 3D mode like on the original PS4, or play entirely in beautiful 2D. When I got the Switch version, since I'd played through the PS4 version already, I decided to go through the game in 2D mode, since it made it feel like a totally different game rather than simply replaying the same game on a different system. I love the old 16-bit style graphics and they look phenomenal here. Obviously they aren't actually 16-bit, but yeah, still gorgeous. Switching between the graphical styles sadly isn't something you can do anytime you want. Instead, you need to visit a church like you would to save, and from there you can change. Another slight limitation is that you have to start at the beginning of a chapter when you do switch, so doing so near the end of a chapter is frankly stupid, so avoid that. However, it does enable you to go back to any chapter you previously played, which is a nice feature for someone like me who might have wanted to record footage for a particular section of the game in 2D. The 2D mode also changes up the gameplay in certain areas too. Firstly, random encounters are back. Monsters no longer walk around on the world map, so not only do you get the old school graphical style, but monster encounters as well. I've heard people complain that the encounter rate in 2D mode is pretty bad, but I never found it to be. It does help that you have the option to speed up battles, both in the S version and the original on PS4, so you can breeze through encounters for the entire battle if you want. Battles are a little different now too, going back to the old system of picking attacks for your entire party at once rather than one at a time in 3D mode, preventing you from being able to react to your enemy quite as well. But hey, the 2D mode is more of a retro mode anyway, giving you the retro look and gameplay. 2D mode also removes the archery side quest, as well it wouldn't really work here. They even took it out of the 3D mode, and you know what? I'm okay with that. It might be the only thing that I didn't care for in the original version of the game. I've mentioned that I spent almost 90 hours on the PS4 version of the game, but for the S version in 2D mode, I was able to almost half that time. Now yes, I didn't bother doing every single side quest or getting to level 99 this time around, but the S version has additional content that adds a few hours to the gameplay time. The way I was able to knock off so much time is because, well, 2D environments are considerably smaller and quicker to navigate. The music gets a nice upgrade, going from MIDI soundtrack to beautiful orchestral soundtrack. Playing the PS4 game, I never once thought, ugh, this sounds bad. But once you've played again with an orchestra, the difference is clear and you never want to go back. Dragon Quest music is wonderful, and hearing it in the best quality available is what you need to do every time. There is no excuse to ever go back to MIDI. You can select it if you want, but I don't know why anybody would. That's about it for differences, or at least anything really worth mentioning. There is some additional content though, and the first bit of it goes back once again to the Japanese exclusive 3DS version of the game, as this particular mode in the S version can only be played in 2D. So when in 2D mode, or if you are playing in 3D mode you will have to switch back to 2D to access it, you get a new location called Tickington, the home of the Tockles. Here you will be able to access locations from all 10 previous Dragon Quest games. Once you've found the correct passwords from Tockles spread around the world, and it's up to you to go into them and set the timeline back to normal. For Dragon Quest fans, this is a wonderful addition, as you get to visit well-known places and experience small parts of the story from those older games. For us in the West, we even get to experience some of Dragon Quest X, the currently Japanese-only MMO, with an offline version coming soon, sparking new hopes of a Western release, for the first time. You may also notice a blocked-off cave that you can't access, and sadly it remains that way. In the 3DS version, the cave is used similar to what they did in Dragon Quest IX with Street Pass, and of course that isn't a thing on the Switch, so we don't get to play any of what's in there. Boo! Luckily though, that isn't the only new content. Going back to those 3 parts of the game that I went through earlier, When you've beaten Mordegon at the end of Part 1, your party is scattered throughout the world, and Part 2 sees you having to reunite with everyone. Dragon Quest XI-S now adds in some new little campaigns, showing you what Eric, Jade, Rab and Sylvando were doing prior to you finding them. Was any of this really needed? Honestly, no. But am I complaining at the fact that we got it? Hell no. More Dragon Quest XI content is more Dragon Quest XI content, and that is awesome. We find out exactly how Eric lost his memories, how Jade was captured and turned evil, what exactly Rab was up to with his unique training, and where Sylvando got all of his followers from. All in all, this does only add around 3 hours to the game, so it doesn't exactly outstay its welcome. I've seen people complain about it, but again, I love this game so much that any extra content I can get, I'll take. And that about does it for Dragon Quest XI and Dragon Quest XI-S. Truly a spectacular game, regardless of which version that you play. If you do want my recommendation though, regardless of which version you might have, play it in 3D first. Definitely do that. Then you can experience the new content in the S version, but experience it in 2D. And that way you get the rest of the game in 2D as well, and it feels like a brand new experience for you. Plus you get the extra added content. But for first time players, definitely go with 3D. Aside from the game looking stunning, the story and the characters and the emotion is much more visceral and visible in 3D mode rather than just 2D, which is mostly just tiny sprites and text. So yeah, you definitely want the 3D mode. Much better experience for first time players, 2D mode for a replay and to access the new content. That is my opinion. So overall, Dragon Quest XI, spectacular, truly is. It is my favourite Dragon Quest game of all time right now. It is. I love it so much. The best in the series as far as I'm concerned, definitely. And it has also now entered my top 10 favourite games of all time list. Specifically the S version, just because of the new content, the ability to switch between 2D and 3D, but the original PS4 version I still adore because that was the first one that I got to play. And yes, I do own it 3 times now. Like I said, I've got the S version on Switch, the original on PS4, and the S version on PS4. This is still in its wrapping, but when I do decide to replay the game again, and it will happen, I'll do this version. That way I kind of get to experience the game for a 3rd time. I'll get to play the 2D mode, but on the PS4. Because honestly, I played the 2D mode on this 99% in handheld, just because it was far more convenient. But you cannot really go wrong with either version of the game, and it doesn't matter what system you played on, it's going to be incredible every single time. You have the amazing characters that, like I said, start off generic, and the deeper into the game you go, the more complex and the more interesting they become. You definitely get attached to most of them. The world is beautiful and gorgeous. All the locations are fantastic with all the distinct look and feel to them. Like I said, the NPCs with their accents and ways of talking, and of course it is fully voiced in 3D mode. And yeah, I love the over-the-top accent, especially a lot of it's, you know, different regions of the UK, which being from the UK is awesome. There's also some European stuff in there as well. It's just wonderful. There are a lot of little sort of throwbacks and references to Norse mythology with naming conventions and things for certain locations, and that's always fun. And it does of course link back to the original trilogy of the first 3 Dragon Quest games, which is very fun. I just adore this game. It is tremendous, and it was the perfect way for me to end Dragon Questober 2021. I sincerely hope you've enjoyed these videos because I've had a ton of fun making them. They've been some of the hardest videos I've had to do, but they've also been the most fun and most rewarding, so I definitely enjoyed them and I hope you have too. I'm bigcal, thanks for watching, thanks for sticking with me through Dragon Questober 2021. Videos will be going back to normal in November, and yeah, I'll see you again next time.